Yeah, let's start then. Well, hello, Peter. Welcome.
Hello,
Um,
Noella. Good to see you again.
yeah, definitely. So it's been a while since we last spoke, and I'm in Amsterdam, and you're in Mount Shasta. So it's a long distance, but in this way, we're connecting the continents. And of course, there's a lot going on in the world, and you proposed a little talk about that to speak a little bit about warfare, but more about how we can use that for our inner growth. Do you want to say a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, a lot of people are asking me what to do about the world situation now that there's war going on in Ukraine. Of course, there are wars going on all the time somewhere in the world that we don't hear about because the people running the news networks choose not to report them for whatever reason that is, but right now the news is reporting the situation in the Ukraine where we see it seemed to be innocent people being attacked and bombed. And I try not to dwell on it, but still the images you get are very, very touching. I ask other friends, how are you dealing with this? Some of them are really into the Advaita view, which is there is no really such thing as somebody else. It's all just consciousness. But, I say there is a very persistent illusion that something does exist other than myself. And Albert Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Mm-hmm. And so we agreed to be in this illusion. I mean, ultimately, we are all raised from the great central sun. And we will return to that eventually, that there is no death, there is only life and consciousness and bliss, that is our ultimate nature, and we will return to that. But we take on these illusions of duality that we are separate beings, and we tend to try to seek pleasure and avoid pain and suffering. That's natural. But sometimes, no matter what we do, the suffering still comes up. So why is that suffering there? It's a very good question. And some people just go into denial, like as long as I stay in my Advaita meditation, I'm in the oneness and I feel joy and bliss. And that is great if you can do that. But, as soon as you come out of that, you are aware, even without turning on the news, you can feel suffering in the atmosphere, Even if you don't talk to anyone, you say, the energy feels different today than yesterday, or it feels different this month than 2 months ago. And you realize that there is suffering in the world. And so you say, how can I use this suffering for my liberation? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the story of Arjuna who's forced to fight in a battle that he doesn't want to fight in. And he sees friends and relatives and teachers as the enemy, that they are fighting against him, and he has to fight against them, and he doesn't want to. He wants to really be a pacifist. But Krishna, who is an embodiment of God, says, it is your duty to fight. You have to do that. I have already decided who is going to live and who is going to die or who is going to suffer, that there is a divine plan that is way beyond your comprehension. But at this moment, you have no choice but to face the enemy and do the best you can, but hold God in your heart. Know that God is the doer. It is not your ego that is motivating your actions, that no matter what you have to do, hold the awareness of the light in your heart and surrender to God, but you still have to act. You cannot just sit down there because you have a certain duty. So each of us has to act in some way, every day. And one thing you can do to advance your own liberation, your own enlightenment, is to use the situation to develop compassion and to help others. Now, the Advaita view is that there are no others. Well, still, there's the illusion of the other. There are others. That's the fact of it. I hate to disappoint the Advaita people, The others are actually all emanations of the same consciousness. So it's like the ocean. The reality is the ocean is one, but if you take a drop out of the ocean, there is still a separate drop. But the consciousness of that drop is the same as all the other drops in the ocean, except one drop may have a little bit of seaweed in it, and the other drop has some other little creature in it, and so on. So there are some little minute differences, And but eventually all the water returns back, to the same ocean. But during the time that they're separate, they have the appearance of separation. So one thing you can do is hold an image of another person, another situation, and realize that that person is also a part of yourself, And you realize that that other self is suffering. Like I picked the image I saw on the news, a man in Ukraine going off to war, saying goodbye to his wife and his 2-year-old daughter. And he was telling her, I'm going off to protect you. You may never see me again. This may be the last time I see you. And I want you to know I love you very much. And this little girl threw her arms around her father and was kissing him and crying. And it was very, very touching. So I hold that image, but first I go within myself and feel the light in my own heart. So this is where the basic Vipassana meditation comes in. So before you even think of the image, you just observe your breath. The in-breath and the out-breath, the rise and fall of your chest. You put your tongue against the roof of your mouth. This completes the bioelectric circuit so the energy can circulate. And you can do it with your eyes open or partially closed or even all the way closed. I like to do it with my eyes open a little bit so I don't drift off somewhere. And gradually the thoughts slow down. And I'm just feeling the rise and fall of my chest. And you can focus also on your body. You feel the expansion and contraction of your chest. And you scan your body and say, is there any tension anywhere in my jaw? Let go of the tension in the jaw. Let go of the pain in the shoulder. Let go of your feeling in your stomach. All the way down to your feet. Let your toes relax. And then just come back to the breath. So this is just me here, relaxing, observing my breathing. And gradually I'm aware that the center of my consciousness is in the center of my chest. Because this is where the light of your of your higher self or your true self is anchored. This is the light that keeps you alive, that causes your heart to beat, that causes your lungs to breathe. It is anchored there. It's called in Sanskrit the Jyoti, the sacred flame that's there in the center of your chest. So you're just aware of that. You feel how good that feels to feel that there. You can feel the love there. The love that you can say the love that God has for you, or the love of your higher self, in the awareness that I am the presence of consciousness focused at this point in space and time. Unlimited consciousness is focused in my body right now, and I am one with that consciousness. And then you gradually become aware of that image you have of that little girl saying goodbye to her father, not knowing if she will ever see him again. And the love wells up in your chest. And as you exhale, you send like a ray of light, a ray of love from your heart to that little girl and to that father and to the mother who is standing there also. And you are just aware of them. And you feel what they are feeling. And the way you feel that is because they are really part of you. So you are sending love to that part of yourself. And as you breathe in the awareness of them and what they are feeling, you are transmuting that into love and blessing and healing. So the light from your being is really flowing to them because there really is no space or time. That is an illusion which we created to be in this movie. The movie has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has to have good people and bad people. It has to have joy and sorrow, fear and anger and compassion, because that is the movie in which we agreed to participate. But we can watch it knowing it's a movie. Like sometimes if you're in a movie theater, it becomes, if it's a good movie, it becomes so real that your heart beats fast and you feel that you are really one of the characters in the movie. But then you can look around and see there are people sitting next to you. You can see the light coming from the projector over your shoulder, projected onto the screen. And you realize, oh, this is just a movie. I can get up and walk out. But you've agreed right now to be in this movie. But to know that it is only as real as you make it. And you can transmute the negative into positive. You can be an enlightened actor in the movie. Like if you talk to an actor, a professional actor who acts in films, you know, they try to pretend that the film is real, but they look out and they see the camera people filming them, and they see the sound crew, and they see the props and so on, and they know that they're just in a movie. But when you watch the movie, it seems as though it's very real. And the good actors can really act so it appears to be real. And you have empathy for them. But what reminds you of the reality of your being is coming back always to the love in your heart. And you can see that as a golden sun sending out light. Like the sun that we have in the sky, even if it's cloudy down here or raining or snowing, the sun is still shining. Beyond the clouds, the sun is shining. And the beings in the sun are joyous in sending out love, because that is the nature of their being. So each of us needs to learn to be a sun and to radiate that light all the time. Instead of adding to the pain and the suffering and the sorrow, we can add love and light and compassion to the situation. And that is really why we are here, is to develop that compassion. You have the whole world in your hands. All the children are your children. I am divine love going forth to them. I am the presence of the Divine Mother. Sending my love out into the world to fill the hearts of all beings. And I am with you always. And gradually you come back into the room where you're sitting. And if your eyes were closed, you look down and you're still breathing, observing your breath. I am here now, present, a conscious being of light in the world, untouched by any outer negative condition. For I am the presence of God, fully conscious at all times. So. I pray that this may be of help to those who are watching. And thank you, Noella, for requesting this meeting at this time. I feel you're divinely inspired. Can continue. Maybe you have a message also.
The practice that you guided was very beautiful. There was a lot of light and love in that. And before you spoke about this sense of, togetherness, oneness, and what came up to me is it's so interesting that Advaitic view of there is no other. And I also see this often sort of misunderstood, perhaps, and sit on a mountain and meditate and be happy there, which I think is also fine. But it's so interesting that since we are everybody, but seemingly separate in this elusive reality movie like theater, it seems it's so logical that we are helping each other. since we're all aspects of the same thing, the same being. And when we see that, of course, we're gonna reach out or send our love and help. And when we know what's going on and we can consciously go into that process by recognizing, like, oh, now I'm facing a pain, or I'm recognizing a pain in somebody else that is here, and that's why it's touching me, because I know this feeling, but I'm trying to keep it in the back door, in the back garden. Yeah, when we use that to actually heal that by allowing ourselves to feel it and recognize at the same time, ideally, that we are, you know, this large sun that we spoke about, this divine love that we spoke about, and can hold that vulnerability inside that greater space and love and light and consciousness, then it's a beautiful opportunity for healing. And I think we serve the collective actually by doing that work ourselves. So that's what arose for me as I heard you speak. It's not always easy. I see many people that get so absorbed by the horror of what they see on the news, and that it seems impossible to get out of that, find their light. How do they do that?
See, right at this moment, the people watching this video on YouTube, there are 100 other choices of videos they could watch about suffering, you know?
Yeah.
And at the end of watching one of those videos, they're going to feel sad or depressed or something like that. And hopefully after watching this, people will feel somewhat uplifted, you know, or get a key, at least, to turn the situation around for them.
Yeah. And
so
how would they do
choice
that?
Every moment, you know, what do you put your attention on, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But how do they do that in those moments that they're watching the news and their family is crying or screaming with them?
Well, let's say you choose to watch one of those videos about the war, a scene from the war. You can still be in tune with your heart, sending light out. Imagine that you're there like an angel hovering over the scene with your hands up and say, I am sending the light of God into this situation. And it actually, your higher self is actually there sending that light out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do sometimes in meditation. I am sending light into that situation. And I also call on Archangel Michael and all the other archangels and Jesus Christ and Mother Mary and Saint Germain, all the ascended masters, to be present in the Ukraine and wherever else in the world it is needed, you know, to go forth and help humanity. These beings need us to call on them. They're only allowed to interfere to a certain degree, but the more we call on them here in the world of illusion, in physical bodies, then the more they can help us.
Yeah.
Just your being here in the world is helping people, and people feeling your presence. That's helping. Everyone has that power, you know, as they go through life, to be someone who inspires other people. Wherever I go, I am transmitting love and healing, you know. Then you might be standing in this, or somebody next to you is healed. They don't know why. They just say, oh, I stood next to you and I was healed. You know, that's what people said about Jesus. That they just touched his robe and they were healed, you know?
Yeah. But it's really by themselves in a way. I recently told someone to always say, I am love for 10 minutes whenever he was in a crisis. And, you know, it helped instantly. Each time he did that, he was healed. And so it's so important in these times that we find it in here, that we look within and don't think that somebody else is going to do it for us, even though it might be helpful to be in their presence so that we can easier remember our own love and consciousness and sun and so forth.
That's actual energy. It's not just something in your mind, that there is actually love and light going out from you.
Thank you for this beautiful conversation, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Noella. I know you're helping many people.